walk it. Walk is on, don't just talk
Mic check, mic check.
Walk is on.
What is going on, guys? And welcome back to another solo episode. Our favourite Mondays to start the week right. And I was sitting there over the weekend thinking, what can we really tap into lately? And without sounding repetitive, and what's going to really hit the audience. And today, we're going to talk about this word called mental health. And the word mental health, does it get thrown around a lot? Yes, it does massively. And I'll never say that my work is mental health. I'll never say that. My work is helping you perform better in all areas of your life. If that's in your relationships, if that's in your career, if that's in your personal development, amazing. And if you're feeling stuck, I'll get into that and we're going to break it all out and get to where you want to get to. But today's episode is really understanding mental health and why I believe that mental health, what they tell you to do, is a load of rubbish. Now, that might sound really left wing at the moment when you hear that, but let me explain why. And maybe it will make some sense to you. So whenever we go through any form of adversities, or whenever you see anything on the radio or the news or wherever you're looking at on social media, it says, it ain't weak to speak, or speak up, or this, that, and the other. Start sharing things with your friends. Now, I agree that talking to your friends will sometimes help. Sometimes. It'll release that valve inside you if you are battling. But imagine you speak to the wrong person, a friend that's not in a real good place himself, or maybe he doesn't know how to deal with this emotional baggage that you just poured on him. And he might give you the wrong response, or he makes you feel weird for feeling this way because he may have never experienced this. And before you know it, you're feeling worse after that conversation than you were prior to it. And you've got an awkward friend right now not really understanding or giving some form of solution, or might have given you the wrong advice. Maybe you went through a breakup, or maybe you're in a crossroad with family or business or whatever it is. But that message that you've just received may be the worst bit of advice you've ever heard. Maybe he just told you, don't worry about it. Just get on the beers and whatever it is, don't worry about it. Or, something like that. And before you know it, you're worse off than you once was. And you're starting to feel guilty now for sharing something. Now you feel weak about sharing something. The next thing you know, you're in a spiral of feeling this way, acting this way, and sabotaging yourself because you think you're going crazy. So what I will say that it is definitely positives to sharing stuff to the right person. To the right person, you will get the right response and you'll get the right action plan after that. To the wrong person, you might be stuck even worse. So that's why my crux on mental health, the word mental health, is 50-50. I'm unsure on how they deal with that aspect and why they say it that way. I get it, though. I get it to an extent, but I don't, if you know what I mean. So anyway, today I'm going to share to you a few things that I believe can get you unstuck in life, in business, in relationships, in self-development, in lifestyle. And then on top of that, it's going to improve your mental health. Better spin off on it? Great. Because I'm all action. We're going for it. We're going the whole juggler. We're going to create the plan. We're going to get energized what we do. We're going to feel like we're unstoppable. We're going to remove the roadblocks. And you're going to get around the right people to top it off. So you cannot fail. That's how it's going to work. You cannot fail. So, let's just break it down to an analogy right now of how I see the mind and how what I do creates long-lasting change, creates long-lasting results, creates long-lasting habits. And why many other people, or many people that are doing stuff right now, after they finish that goal, they go back to old habits. Now, how I explain that to someone? Let's just say right now that you went on a weight loss challenge. You went on a program and you started doing dieting and all of these new things, right? And after that 8 to 12 weeks, you lost that weight. You look great. And, you're so happy with your change and whatnot. And next thing you know, you celebrate. Well, you haven't celebrated that whole period, but now you're going to celebrate. And you go on a night out, and you drink and whatnot, you eat rubbish. And before you know it, 9 times out of 10, for a lot of people who go on these nutrition plans, they normally put the weight back on. No fault of their own, actually. It's just because they don't know any different. You see, how the conscious mind works and the subconscious mind. If you're only following suit but not changing anything internally about yourself, then you're going to forever be stuck on that hamster wheel of temporary fix and then going back to old habits, temporary fix, going back to old habits. You need to change this at a subconscious level. You need to change the emotions, the beliefs, and the stories which are connected to old behaviors. So then moving forward, when you get to this crossroad, when you get to that opportunity of long-lasting change or going back down to old habits, you continuously go down long-lasting change instead. So how I say that is, you have your conscious mind and you have your subconscious mind. Well, for a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, everyone, we only use 10% of our mind every day. So if you just looked at your head or your mind, however you want to say it, you only use 10% of your mind every day, your conscious mind. And the 90%, well, that's the subconscious. That's where all the programming is in our mind and why we do things and why we get emotionally triggered by certain stuff and why we have belief systems and stories. Now, let's just stick onto the story of this person that's done that 8 or 9 or 10 week challenge and lost that weight, and then they've gone back to old habits. The reason why they went back to old habits is because they never changed any of the old stories, the old beliefs, or the old habits connected to that. They've just utilized willpower in this period and had a coach give you, this is the plan, stick to the plan, and that's it. The reason why that happened is because you haven't changed the stories, like I just said. But for you to change the stories, you need to reprogram your subconscious beliefs. Now, that man or woman who went on that program and lost that weight, now, in the past, she might have a story which is stuck in the subconscious of maybe an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend or a teacher or a parent would always say, you're always big-boned. You're always a big girl or a big guy. You're never going to be skinny. It's just not in you. It's not in your genetics. Well, the belief system that happens over that is, I'm always going to be this size. This is who I am. This is my identity. And then the story that we run with is, I'm never going to be good enough to be long-lasting shape or never going to be good enough to always feel and look this way for longer-lasting periods than 8 to 12 weeks. But if you change that belief system and then you get around the right people in the same process and then you start to take the emotion off those stories, that's when you start to have long-lasting change. That's when you start to shift the subconscious beliefs, start to overcome these roadblocks. So then in the conscious mind, you start to live in this in a longer stage of your life. And when these triggers or roadblocks come in, you have the emotional awareness to start to change them. You start to change the way you feel and act because you're aware of all of these situations, these past stories, these emotions, these beliefs. And that's how you get long-lasting change. And it's removing this emotional baggage which is connected to stuff in the subconscious. You can only do that when you start to understand that theory. Otherwise, you're forever stuck on the hamster wheel. And the worst thing about it is if you are stuck on that, I can't change, I'm stuck, I'm not good enough, for some reason I just can't stick to this habit. Well, what happens is every time that you try, and maybe after a week or two you go extremely well, and then for no reason of your own more, all of a sudden you go back to old habits. Well, what happens then is you go back to old stories, old beliefs, old emotions. And that hole that you've been getting out of every time for 2 weeks, you revert back into the hole, and the hole gets deeper and deeper. And when the hole gets deeper and deeper, it's harder to get out. And the belief system is, this is who I am, this is my identity, this is what I'm meant to do, this is where I'm at in my life. And that's a belief you stick to. And it's a shame, because you see so many people out there with so much potential, but their belief systems are so bad and so sabotaged that they never get out of it. And I'm thinking, man, if you just had this, if you just had this support or you had this experience, you'll transform it all for you. So the way that you can do that, and it's called paradigm shifting. So like I just said right now, your current identity might be, this is who I am, I'm not good enough. Well, that's a story that you create, and then that's the belief system. And the habits that you currently do right now is that you never do anything which is aligned to the future you, the future that you truly want. But for you to do that, you need to start the paradigm shift. Well, that's when you start to shave and change the stories But how to change the stories is you implement new habits. When you implement new habits, you start to change the belief system. Instead of I can't do this, is I am doing this and I'm seeing change day to day and I continue to do this. Well, after a time of doing that, the belief system changed, the stories changed into a positive view. And then before you know, if you stick on this trajectory and get around the right people, your identity starts to shift. You become the person you truly want to become in a life that you truly want. You see, we're all from the same area. We're all from the same, wherever you are in the world, you're in the same town as someone else. Well, isn't it funny how we all live in the same area and the same dynamic or, demographic, but we all have different experiences? Isn't that interesting? It's because it's all in your mind. If you decide to shift your mind and look at it in a positive light and start to challenge the negative thoughts, over time, with repetition, you start to love life. You start to see opportunities instead of half-empty mentality. You start to see things happening in front of you. Connections, relationships are better. The relationship with yourself, that negative self-talk is less. You don't get overwhelmed by fear. You don't get overwhelmed by new opportunities. You get excited about them. But that's what you start to do when you start to shift the mind. You start to set goals, take actions, and then the outcome when you start to do that on a regular basis is you feel more confident. You start to lower that self-esteem. You start to increase your belief systems. You start to do things which are going to challenge you more and more. Iron sharpens iron. Now, the best way for someone to be in a better light, in a better opportunity, is being around the right people. It's getting around the right people. It's simple as that. And some people say, I don't know how to do that. I don't know where they are. They're bloody everywhere. You just got to get out of your comfort zone and meet them there. If that's being comfortable in being that run club wanker or being comfortable in being that sea dipper on a Friday, who cares? Or if it's getting comfortable on listening to podcasts which are going to improve you instead of gossiping with the people that you know are not good for you anymore. Because the reality is, if you're stuck in that cycle and your time is negative and gossiping, well, it's a straight direct reflection of what you truly think of yourself. That's the reality of it. Once you realize that, you feel a lot worse about negative talk and gossiping about people, especially people who are doing better than you, because that's a direct reflection of where you are right now in your life. So my advice for you right now to make change is A, start to get clear on what you want. B, get around people that are doing more, surround yourself with positive people, uplifting you, holding you accountable instead of accepting bang average or below average all the time. And more importantly, starting to recognize these negative beliefs that you've carried. Start to recognize these victim mentalities you have when things don't go well, or the reason why thing doesn't work for me is because of X, Y, and Z. Once you start to recognize that in yourself, life changes. And the more that you take accountability and ownership for mistakes, why things don't work out, and you start to take responsibility, life gets easier. You don't point the finger anymore. You look at yourself first and you go, okay, what did I do then? What can I learn from this situation? What did I do wrong? What can I do next time to improve from a past relationship? What can I learn from a past relationship regardless if it didn't work out? What can I learn about myself? What did I do wrong? What did I do right? And what can I do in my next opportunity, in my next relationship? Everything is not a wrong. It's a learning. It's whether you decided to be a learning or it's going to be a belief that keeps you stuck. Because the reality is, and this is the great way of seeing this analogy, is let's just imagine right now you are the head of your table. There's a table right now. There's 2 seats on the left. There's 2 seats on the right. And you are the head of the table. And let's just say right now you've got happiness on your left. You've got confidence over there too. And you've got sadness and fear. Over your stages of your life, you're going to be happy. You're going to have all of these emotions. And what happens is happiness or confidence when you do something well or you achieve something will come to the head of the table. And then it'll go back down. And then confidence will come up when you start to see repetition on habits. You feel better. You feel more confident in talking about things. And then it'll go back down. But what happens is, if we have experiences in our life where maybe a parent only told you were good when you were doing things, or you had a partner that ruined your confidence, or you had a teacher that told you you're never going to amount to something, then fear loves to get to the head of the table, and he'll stay there a long time. And what he'll tell you, he'll go, you stay over there, you stay on the side of the table, and I'm going to take lead from now on. But what fear does, he puts a box around you, which he makes you feel safe, but never really content. And if you're never really content, you're never living a life of real meaning. You're surviving instead of thriving. So you right now, if you're listening to this, you need to be the head of your table. You need to take life by the by the head. You need to decide right now, I'm going to be in control of my life, and I'm going to take my life into the right destiny, and put fear back down to the side. And say, I appreciate what you've done, but I don't need it anymore. I'm ready to level up. I'm ready to get around the right people. I'm ready to achieve my goals. I want more meaning. I want more energy. I want to get excited on a Monday, not dread a Monday. I don't want to drag my feet through the week. I want more meaning in everything I do. And I'm telling you right now, that's achievable if you put your intention on it. If you start to put your intention on it, energy goes with intention flows. So you put that on the positives and the opportunities, you'll start to grow that baby. If you put on the negatives, well, you start to grow those negative weeds as well, the weeds that you don't want anymore. Just remember this right now. Iron sharpens iron. So who you surround yourself with, if they are the right person, they will level you up and you will level them up. Right, guys, happy Monday. Let's get after it.